Okay, so now we're official. Welcome to the fifth installment, the fifth edition of Coach's Corner, and I am just blessed and honored to have Marisa Moon with us today. You and I met a long time ago. I think it was at my first Paleo FX. I don't know if it was yours, but I've known Marisa for a long time, and I've seen you. Matter of fact, I think you used to come to one or two. I at one point I was in Illinois, and I had some health coaches in Illinois kind of all meet at my gym, and we would just sort of share ideas and talk about what was going on. So I've known you for a really, really long time. I want everybody to feel free. This is intentionally set up as a meeting, so you can mute and unmute yourselves and ask questions of Marisa. And because the whole point of this is to give everybody listening some inspiration about what's possible and how all of these various coaches that have all graduated from our program specifically are using what they've learned, and most importantly, their own passions, their own life experience to build the career path that they choose. And I know you've taken some twists and turns. So with that long opener, let's talk about Marisa. So tell everybody a little bit your story, kind of what brought you to health coaching.
Yeah, that is an interesting story, just because I never imagined, I'd be in this field. And I really, I was a career bartender in downtown Chicago, and I didn't want to be a bartender forever, but I was making so much money and it was so much fun. And I still fit in at the time, even though I was old compared to all the bartenders. It was tough to leave. I saw it in my older peers. They were having a hard time leaving because you can't match that income.
Yeah.
But anyway, I started struggling with digestive issues. So I was looking for answers, and I was like, this can't be how my body is designed to operate. And I stumbled upon, I got so lucky because I just searched nutrition, and this was, almost 15 years ago when podcasts weren't big. And I just searched Apple Podcasts for the word nutrition. And I found an awesome podcast by nutritionists who actually understood like more of a functional medicine ancestral template. And so they were talking about, the microbiome. I never heard of that before. They were talking about gluten and dairy sensitivities and all kinds of stuff. And I listened to it long enough to be like, holy crap, I think I have a gluten sensitivity.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do? Because I'm 100% Italian, come from a family of restaurateurs and caterers and grocery store owners and pasta makers. And, I love food so much. It was just crazy to me to think that I had to give up that whole category. But I was pretty desperate at the time. We're talking about like unpredictable trips to the bathroom, sometimes even snuggling next to the toilet overnight because you never know what's going to happen. Like really embarrassing gas that you're like, I never want to leave the house again. And so I had terrible IBS, but I didn't know. And immediately my health turned around with removing gluten, and then right away. So that was rewarding because it's a tough change to make.
Yeah.
And then I started reading about the paleo diet, and I started understanding like all these things at play. And I took my passion for food to a blog, and I started mylongevitykitchen.com. And I was just sharing, a friend of mine was like, you should just post your cooking on social media. And I was like, I hate social media. I don't want to do that. Who cares? Whatever. And she's like, you never know what opportunities will come your way. You never know who's watching. And so I was like, I never thought of it that way. She shared with me just posting pictures of her outfits. She was getting like free hotel rooms and like, offers for like to model their clothing. And this was a long time ago. Now that's obviously normal. But back then I was like, what? So I was so like on board to give it a try. I just posted pictures of my food saying I have to be gluten-free. So instead of eating this version, I made my own, and it's like this. And then I started the blog. And it was hard at first because I wasn't doing it for money or for business. And, years later, I was going to Paleo FX for fun. I was reading, Mark's books for fun. And I was just so passionate about it. When Primal health coach certification came out, it was called Primal Blueprint Expert.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling my husband, I'm like, they have this thing called Primal Blueprint Expert, like I really love Marxist and stuff. And he's like, you should go for it. But I was nervous. I dropped out of college 3 times, you guys. I didn't know that I had ADHD until I was like 26. So even though I was a good student, I struggled a lot to keep up and just to not feel overwhelmed by it all. And I would just get depressed and drop out of school. And my form of anxiety or ADHD would manifest as depression because I wasn't diagnosed or medicated. I didn't know what was going on. And my husband's like, don't be afraid to go back to school if this is something you're already doing for fun. Like, you're reading all this stuff for fun, and nobody's going to have any expectations on you but you. And I'll support you as you pursue it. And so finally, as soon as it became Primal Health Coach certified, that was like the needle mover for me. I was like, whoa, a health coach. Like, wow, that sounds pretty official. I got excited. So that's what I did. It was 2017. By the time I finished it, it took me probably a year and a half, but I used PaleoFX as my deadline.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh no, there's no way I'm going to another PaleoFX without this certification being done. And so that's what I did to finally get myself across the finish line. And I don't know, it's been a big piece of my identity now. It's like, makes so much sense. I'm a very like service-based person. I love helping people, and what we can do with this certification seems to be endless. So it's been fun for me.
So I love that. So what I would love for you to share, because you've also gotten what was level 2 at one point, now the master coach designation. And I want to touch on that in a minute, but I mean, your journey sounds a lot like my journey. Sounds a lot like, I think, a lot of people listening in, so just following a passion. And whether you had an idea as to what you wanted to do at the end of all this, or whether it was, I'm just going to lean into this because it's what I love and kind of see where it takes me. Everyone's got kind of a different, I think, mindset when they start out. Do you mind talking a little bit about, so, this is my passion. I want to take this course. I want to get it done. Did you have sort of a goal in mind or a vision in mind as to the direction you wanted to go at the time?
I didn't really. I was kind of like, man, I was just kind of taking whatever I could get at the time because I was still bartending, and I didn't need to turn this quickly into a career.
Mm-hmm.
So I, even against all advice, I took my first client for free. And then I took my second client for like a ridiculous discount, like $300 for 3 months. And it just made me feel better. Like, I can screw up and it's okay. Like, that's just what I needed to have that excuse to suck. So I really was taking my time, because at the same time, and it's actually from posting on social media, I was hired as like a nutrition consultant for a paleo vegan juice bar in Chicago. The owner, before it opened, he saw me posting paleo granola recipes and all this stuff. He's like, I'm going to do acai bowls at my juice bar, and I want to have some paleo and keto stuff. Can you make paleo granola for us? And I was like, oh, absolutely. I was all over it. So of course I had no idea like what I was doing. I didn't go to culinary school yet at this point. I eventually went, but I just was like taking any opportunity that came my way. And that might be really scary to some people. Like, you feel like, who am I to come to a restaurant, so to speak, and be the person who makes your recipes? But I was like, hell yeah, I can make that. So I just went in there, and we had a great bond. Like, we didn't know anyone else drinking bulletproof coffee. We didn't know anybody else who cared at all about paleo. So it was like so exciting to find somebody who even cared. And so the answer to your question is, I was already getting paid by that company, like $15 an hour to start, to like help them create recipes and help them source ingredients. And I was kind of okay with that for a while. And I did that for probably a year, barely taking a client or two. I was just nervous like everybody else. Like, when do you take the leap? How do you take the leap? And being with that company long enough and teaching, I was like presenting like workshops for them. And I was presenting workshops for a personal trainer I was friends with. And that gave me more confidence, because I was like, wow, I really have a lot to share that is of value to people besides my cooking. And it made me feel like I have a voice that, deserves a place, and that it brings out a side of me that I like.
Yeah.
And so I just sought more opportunities like that. And that includes being on social media, going live and doing stuff like that. I was nervous. I didn't like the idea of it, but I was trying to be open, and it paid off because things just kept like coming at me. And it was just about me. I remember you interviewed me, Laura, when we were at one of the Paleo FXs, and you wanted to hear someone's story about how they grew their business. And it was the very early stages. And I said, I went to a co-working office. I started handing out my business cards. I told people I'm a health coach, even though I didn't feel like a health coach, even though I wasn't coaching. That was a big struggle I had. If I don't have any clients, I can't call myself a health coach. How am I a health coach if I don't have any clients? But I was like, I have to stop saying that. I have to tell people I'm a health coach, just get used to this coming out of my mouth and get used to these conversations that I'm having with people. And I think that's why things kept coming my way, because I was just like, I don't care if I look stupid. I probably don't look stupid. Like, we never look as dumb as we think we look. And so I just slowly started to realize, like, I can do this without that company, that juice bar.
Yeah.
And I want to. And he wanted me to coach for them and give, them most of the money. And I was like, I don't really need, but I would be okay with that if he would also let me do it on my own, but he didn't want me to do it on my own too. So that's when it was clear that I needed to man up and start my own business. So eventually I did that.
Yeah. So there was a lot in there that I took away, and anybody listening that might want to share some things that might have struck a chord with you. I heard you say, started to take every opportunity that came my way. First of all, the opportunities are not going to come your way until you started your blog and you started to just put little pieces of yourself out there that allowed people. So look, I get this question a lot, and I'd love your opinion. Hey, do I have to be on social media to grow my business? You don't have to. In the very beginning, mine did not grow that way, but it would have grown a lot faster if I had. Okay. But you don't have to. But it is a phenomenal tool in terms of speeding up the process. Mm-hmm. And so it was something as simple as just sharing what you're doing that caught somebody's attention, that gave you an opportunity to take advantage of. And then the other thing I heard you say is it was through these experiences that allowed you to build confidence to continue to say yes and to try something different. I 100% echo the confidence you built doing public speaking, getting up there and talking to people. A couple of things, guys. I mean, I used to do this in my old job, so it's easy for me now that I'm in this realm. But when I first started, scared to death. Like, my heart was racing. Like, I was terrified until I realized, what? They have no idea what I plan to say, this audience. So if I screw up, nobody has a clue, right? So you finally just get used to it. But the one thing about public speaking is it elevates you in terms of content expert in the eyes of the people, the audience, right? You are immediately elevated in terms of sort of expertise, whether you feel that way or not. So I would love your opinion, and we'll circle back to this in terms of public speaking on where people should start, in terms of topics. And then the other thing I really took out of that was, taking the bridge to that other company. And so at some point, I think you realized this company is no longer a bridge for me. They're more of a crutch, and I need to be able to let that go. And it was through all these experiences that you had along the way that gave you the confidence to do that. So that's what I took away from that whole story. If anybody else has something else that they really, share it here. But did I?
Yeah. I mean, even hearing you say it makes me excited, because it's so realistically what happened. I was just trying to experiment and be open. My friend that told me that story about her getting free hotel rooms, like, I was literally like, I hate social media. No way am I doing that. Yeah. Like, that's the conversation we were having. And she told me that, and I was like, how narrow-minded of me to be like, oh, like, it's just all in your ego. Like, I am not the kind of person who uses social media. And I was like, if I want something to, broaden my network of people that like my cooking or care about being gluten-free or paleo or whatever, this is the way to do it, and might as well try. So the throwing yourself out there for the workshops, that was exciting to me from the beginning. So I wasn't like petrified. I was just overthinking it, like every health coach does with everything. When you're new, you're overthinking everything, from your business card, your website, to your first package, to your pricing, you're just overthinking everything as if they're written in stone and nothing can ever be changed. But you can change it all the time, and nobody cares and nobody notices, because we are not the center of everyone's universe. We are only the center of our own. So I really was like, okay, I just got to get a few under my belt and see how this goes. And I learned very quickly how much we try to pack in too much information. It helped me self-edit so much. Like, when you write a blog post or when you present something, you are going to feel like you need to give everything that you know. And maybe that's an insecurity, like you're just like, I want to make sure that they know I'm what I'm talking about. Or maybe it's just because you're desperate to help and you're like, I have all this information, you need it. And so like in one workshop about ancestral health, I'm trying to tell them to like switch from their plastic containers to not having any food additives, to going gluten-free, dairy-free, and having sprouted nuts and seeds, and pasture-raised meats, and reading the labels. And it was like an hour and a half, and these people are like, thanks, everything is fucked. Excuse me, I didn't mean to swear, but like literally they were like, wow, that was a lot, thanks Marisa. But they didn't feel capable, or I didn't increase their self-efficacy whatsoever. They felt like, where do I start now? So when it comes to topics, when you're first starting, you really want to ask people, or find out, like by doing research, validating your idea. But you really want to just meet them where they're at. And I learned this from collaborating with a company that helped me grow after I niched down, the Life Fasting Tracker app, and their parent company. I've collaborated with them on some webinars and stuff, and they helped me because they market research everything like before we do it, and they A/B test like different titles like on their team for the talks I'm giving, and it's like, no matter how cool of a name for the talk that I would come up with, they would turn it into like 3 things you need to succeed with intermittent fasting. It's like, that's so vague, like 3 things you need. Like, what are we even talking about? But like, that would be the one that wins. And then, we get 100 people signing up for the webinar in 24 hours. So I learned, like, we're trying to fancy everything up or make it represent us, when really it just needs to represent the ears of the people you're trying to reach.
I love that. There's so much that I've learned in terms of marketing. I 100% agree with you. When I first started coaching, look, it's not that I didn't help my first clients. I know I did, but just verbal diarrhea. Like, you need to, all this stuff is so important. And here's everything you need to know. I would do all my lessons and educating in my coaching session. It was all education. I wasn't coaching. I was all education, and been like, now what are we going to do with it? Hey, let's pick a goal, and then you wonder why they're unsuccessful from session to session. There's way too much. So if there's anything that can give people confidence getting started, is to keep it simple, one thing at a time. Because granted, we give you a lot of education in this course, right? I mean, we can always go down a rabbit hole. There's always more that we can know. But sometimes when I take a look at some of our competitors that really don't get into that stuff, I'm like, maybe there's a method to their madness. Maybe, we don't want it, but we feel differently. We feel there's really nothing, you're never going to regret a great education, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your clients need to have it all on day one, or even
no.
One, and from the standpoint of giving a talk, I would agree there too. One topic, very defined, keep it simple. And from an attention span standpoint, oh my gosh, 30 minutes tops, right? You try to do something over 90 minutes, that's really more for it, like a more advanced, group,
like academic,
someone you might be speaking to. And so we're doing some marketing for Primal Health Coach Institute, and they're having Aaron and I do these little videos, and they want me to keep it to a minute. I can't freaking do it.
Oh my God.
I'm just like, I have too much to say. And I'm like, they gave me a script. I'm like, but that's not even really all that true. Or it's far more nuanced than that. They're like, Laura,
I know.
We're trying to get someone's attention so they can get you on the phone so that you can have a deeper conversation. And so that's what I would take away from exactly what you just said. You want to grab their attention, something that's going to give them a reason to kind of learn more. You have the opportunity to give them a little bit more, a little bit later. So thank you for sharing that, because I have found that to be true too. And anybody that's on this call that's been trying to get their arms around some marketing, anything you may have learned or takeaways, we'd love to hear. But here's one thing I would love for you to speak to, because I ask everybody this, is, how do you define health coaching? And for me, it changed from when I first went into health coaching, what I thought it was. But to be fair, that was 10 years ago compared to now. So my definition has changed. And I would love to hear your process there too. Like, what did you think you were getting into in terms of health coaching in the beginning? And how do you sort of define health coaching now?
Well, I think like most people at the time that I was going to health coaching school, I thought that I was going to be giving them nutrition advice. That was my interest too. So I just probably wanted it to be that. But especially when I took the level 2 Primal Health Coach certification, it was like totally locking in this definition of health coaching that I wasn't quite locked in with before. I just didn't really adopt it until then. And that is that we are behavior change specialists. We are someone's health advocate, yes, but we are there meeting them where they're at to take the steps and do the messy work to implement things to make changes in their life for better health and well-being. And meeting them where they're at is everything.
Yeah.
The number one thing you can do for your clients is to be okay with where they're at and not have your own expectations or your own agenda. And I have been thanked from clients for my patience and understanding and acceptance. I've been thanked from clients who've had other coaches. And this would be a red flag. Like, you're not supposed to take someone from a discovery call who's like been with other coaches and complaining about how they did things. But, you know, I do attract people with some, mental health disorders because I've had depression and ADHD, and I attracted some people with high functioning autism. And it was a challenge I wanted to take on and explore. And so that was why I ignored some of the red flags and decided to go with it. I asked the client, like, would it be okay with you on that discovery call? Like, I understand that you felt ignored and that they were trying to make you do things that don't work for you. Does it upset you when someone makes the suggestions, or is it upsetting because when you decline the suggestion, they keep persisting? And they explained that they keep persisting, they kept bringing it up. I was like, well, if I promise to never do that to you, do you promise to be open to suggestions when I first make them as we get to know each other? And they said yes. And so that's what I implemented. When I was coaching this person, they were literally eating, you guys, a miniature like Halloween candy bar, like a Milky Way or a Twix, every half an hour or hour while they were working an 8-hour shift at Walmart, because they were like a stock person. And so they wanted to lose weight and they wanted to do intermittent fasting, but they were eating a cookie and a Subway sandwich with a pop every day for lunch, the exact same thing every day. And every hour they were having a mini Twix bar or a Milky Way.
Wow.
And they're like, I don't like vegetables and I don't like this, and I have a sensory problem, all this stuff. I'm like, okay, well, let's just explore like what other things you could have besides a Twix bar and just see if you've tried any of these. And I eventually got this person to alternate between Twix bars and dried mango slices. They liked dried mango slices. And that was, like the 7th session. Okay.
Yeah.
So like not a lot of coaches would have made it to the 7th session because they would have felt like they were failing. But this person was thanking me for being patient with them. And we got to the point where he was no longer eating the candy bars anymore, and where he did reach his goal. And he was like, you're the only coach or person I've ever worked with who actually cared about my input. And I was like, how could I not? This is your life we're changing, not mine.
Yeah. There are so many. So look, I mean, this comes part and parcel with the industry we're in, for good or bad, not being a regulated industry, right? That there are people that are out there marketing themselves as health coaches when they're really not coaching. All right. They're just not a licensed healthcare professional. They're calling themselves something else. They're not a registered dietitian or nutritionist, but they're dealing in diet. So they're calling themselves a health coach, but they're not really coaching. And I'm not putting those people down. They're just doing something else. And there are many of us here, me included, that when the time is right, I may offer I can actually give nutrition advice down here in Florida, right? As long as I'm not diagnosing or treating a condition. If I focus on the area that I focus on, which is, pre-menopausal to menopausal women and fat loss, right? Building muscle, that's my wheelhouse. I can actually give nutrition advice now, but I never, ever start there. Ever. My client needs to be in an emotional and psychological place to be able to take on. And the last thing I want to do is to be just like the last person that failed them.
Yeah.
They've been on a million different diets. So we're not going to be on a diet. And I need to know they're in the right mindset to be able to change how they eat without feeling as though they're on a diet. So meeting them where they're at is so important. And so can you tell me, in terms of kind of was it the master coach that made that switch for you and really kind of understanding that? Yeah.
Absolutely. I screwed up a lot, you guys. I have clients that like if I saw them again, I'd be like embarrassed because I'm just like, I can't believe I threw all that stuff at you. I can't believe I was so opinionated about your journey. And I was very nice. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like they don't like me or whatever. It's just, I feel silly now that I know what coaching is supposed to be like. And I feel bad that I didn't give them that opportunity. But anyway, I really learned from every single mistake that I made. And that's what we teach our clients. Like
Mhm.
I have grown men, who are like in their 50s who have to hear from me. Like, this is part of the process. You're going to make this mistake a bunch of times. And if instead of looking at as you failed and you screwed up again, you look at it as I'm gathering more familiarity with myself. I'm building my self-awareness so that soon I'm going to be so sick of that pattern that I'm going to say, no, next
Mhm.
time I'm not doing that because I'm so sick of doing that over and over and over. And I'm like, I'm sorry that sometimes it has to be that way, but that's how it is for me. That's how it is for everyone. Humans are messy.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes we need that much repetition to wake up and take control of our own lives. And as a health coach, sometimes we have to be really patient to allow that to happen.
It's true. And what's interesting is the sort of coaching template that we give you in the main course, that 12-week coaching template. Guys, that's a starting place. More than half of my clients hire me for twice that length of time.
Mm-hmm.
12 weeks is a lot easier to sell from a marketing standpoint. Yeah. People are willing to say, okay, I can commit for 3 months. And then they get, part of the way through it and they realize, well, crap, I'm only halfway there, but they've made progress. They've made some real progress in that time. And so they're really ready to kind of continue to invest in themselves and sort of further that journey. So thank you for sharing that this, look, that was a tough client to take on and kind of what it was a he, right? And just their behaviors, and that it took till the 7th session before something really meaningful changed. And that's not all that uncommon, right? You're going to find clients that come to you at various stages of change, right? If you're in the course and you haven't gotten to that yet, you're going to learn about the stages of change and kind of where people are in that. That action stage can be really long. All stages of this can be really long, and you'll find some clients probably ready for change in one aspect, but not in others.
Well, and it's just like us with our business. Like, you're not going to always have this linear progression. You're not going to just be like, I'm starting my website, I'm getting new clients, I'm increasing my income, I'm getting more confident. Like, there's going to be some lapses. There's going to be self-doubt. There's going to be life, COVID, pandemics, things like that happen that are out of your control. And you're going to have setbacks. I had like, I was basically found on a coaching directory and approached to help someone start their new big business idea. And I was sort of tricked into it. This person, I think, was a well-meaning con artist, but they were. And I was strung along long enough to leave my business goals behind to pursue this one. I didn't put any money into it, but I put all my effort and time into it before I realized what was really going on. And this person was mentally ill. And I had to finally admit, like, this is bullshit, and I had to back out. And so I was depressed after that because I felt so confused about my inability to read somebody and see that coming. And so it took me months before I was ready to relaunch my business, but it was ended up being like the best thing that happened to me because I was going the wrong direction. I was trying to be everything to everyone. I was trying to be the health coach that can help everybody. And I was building a course at the time, and I was going to be someone who, I don't even want to get into it, but basically it was kind of about gut health. Okay. And it was helping people choose an elimination diet they needed. And so I thought that was niching down because I was like, it's really about gut health and finding food sensitivities. But when I came back, I was like, dang, a lot of people have been asking for my intermittent fasting content because I did a presentation on that. And people were like, I couldn't make your talk. And nobody ever reached out to me like, I can't make it. Are you going to record it? At that time, it wasn't common. It was an in-person talk. And people were asking me if I was recording it or if I was going to do it again. And I was shocked because this was 2015 before intermittent fasting was even cool, or no, it was 2017, I think. But after that thing happened with being conned in that business plan idea, I was like, I have this stuff already for intermittent fasting and people want it. Why don't I just like make a quick course out of that and just forget the other one? because this might sell a lot easier because it's trending.
Mm-hmm.
And then before I knew it, I was niching myself as an intermittent fasting coach, and that just changed everything for me.
Awesome. So let's talk about that then. Let's get into kind of, I just tell everybody a little bit more about your practice now and kind of what you're doing now and how you define it. And then I'd love for you to kind of speak, because some of the questions we get too is, how do I find my niche? What if I feel like I can help so many more people? I feel like I'm letting other people down. Speak to that a little bit in terms of all of that niching, and then also kind of in terms of I want you to give some advice around creating content, because you do some of that for us too. So anyway, your practice.
Yeah, it was scary. It was really, really scary to niche down that specifically. And I was thinking, how much help could people possibly need for intermittent fasting? Like, you just don't need it this time. And how much could I possibly do? And whatever, just every thought that you've ever had about niching down, I had it. Like, I want to help all kinds of people, and I don't want people to think that's all I know and all this stuff. And I knew better. I had all the experts and mentors telling me otherwise. And so I said, if I don't ever try this niche thing or take this opportunity and ride the wave before intermittent fasting takes off, I might regret it. And right now I'm down in the dumps because this whole thing failed. And so I might as well just try it. And I put on my website that I'm an intermittent fasting coach. I put on my Instagram bio that I'm an intermittent fasting coach. I was like, I'm just going to go all in. I'm going to just be like, my freebie is about intermittent fasting. My Instagram page is all about intermittent fasting, and just see what happens. And people were finding me because nobody else was calling themselves an intermittent fasting coach. Mm-hmm. So I'm the first result that pops up on Google, and I don't have a blog, and I don't do SEO or any of that. And it's just because I used those words, intermittent fasting coach. So it's like, if you were a Hashimoto's coach, Hashimoto's health coach or something, like, people are eventually going to find you because you put that word attached to it. Okay. A lot of us like to get creative. Like, I'm I don't know, like, mindset coach is a little more like, now, but I remember like 5 years ago when people were calling themselves a mindset coach, I'm like, nobody's going to even know what that is, or they're going to look for you. Yeah. So we try to get creative, but like, don't get creative. And when I did that, I started to see how many questions people had about intermittent fasting that I had the answers for, and how complicated people are in everything they are in intermittent fasting. And so they were like, oh my God, I don't know what to do because I'm counting calories and blah, blah, blah. And then I heard that this happens, and I'm, whatever, I want to lose weight before this wedding, and I'm really hungry at night. And is there anything that I can have to take my medication? I'm supposed to eat with my medication. Just, you name it. There's just a million questions people have, and they just want somebody to talk to about it. So I realized that I loved it. I thought I was cornering myself. Like, I thought that I was going to get bored with it, but it just expands anything that you do. Like, if you were a thyroid coach or as an intermittent fasting coach, there's everything: stress, life, habits, all of the messy human stuff that goes with any of the behavior change, tools that we have in our belt. Everything about ancestral health, it all loops right back into there. And so I'm coaching them on everything. I'm not just coaching them on intermittent fasting. In fact, a lot of people come to me for intermittent fasting coaching, and I'm like, what if intermittent fasting isn't right for you right now? Like, I'm not telling everybody to do intermittent fasting. Not everybody's a candidate right now. And so I really think, like, I'm writing a book on it now. And, wow. and that's really intimidating and really scary, because I'm like, who am I? You know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for so many years. I have my own method. I coach groups. I have a course. I have coached hundreds and hundreds of clients, maybe thousands indirectly, because I work with the Life Fasting Tracker company. And I'm like, why not put it into a book? What the hell? Like, who says I can't? Like, honestly, I'm not going to try and be something I'm not. I'm not going to try and like reference all these scientific studies. I'm not that person. And I'm doing it because my audience wants more from me than I can give. I can't work any more hours, or I'm not willing to work any more hours. I'm not willing to make content every single day anymore. You barely see me on social media these days. It's because I'm actively coaching groups every quarter, and because I have my private clients, and I'm working on my book, and that's enough for me. Like, you have to learn how to balance it all. But I came to this because I'm saying it is really endless within your niche. And if you don't like it, you could change it. You know, I forgot what I was calling it, but like my strategy call was like, let's, I don't remember what it was called, but it was something like, let's tackle your tummy troubles call or something, you know, like something stupid like that. But that was actually the way I got the most discovery calls ever, was when I followed this advice from not Amy Porterfield, Amy Littman. You guys have had her before. I wrote a blog post on the Primal Health Coach blog about like, you're a health coach, here's how to announce it in 5 steps or something. And I shared what I did according to Amy Littman's advice. And that was like scary, because I was not a full-time health coach. And I have all these followers and friends that know me as a bartender or as the other Marisa. And so just like everyone else, you're like hesitant to just come out of the closet, you know? Yeah. And so I was like, I'm a health coach and I can help you with your tummy troubles. I had all these terrible things that I went through too. And now I'm here to help you. And you can book a free discovery call. And then all of a sudden I had freaking 15 calls on my calendar. I was freaking out. I couldn't believe it. And, you know, that was my first niche I tried. And then I tried the gut health one. And it was just me meandering, not knowing what I wanted to do. But when I did the intermittent fasting one, I assumed it was going to be temporary. But now here I am, and I'm steadfast, and I love it so much.
So I love that. So there's a couple things that I want to draw out of that. You know, the fact that you were so active and out there and producing content is what even puts you in a place to write a book at this point, right?
Oh yeah.
So case in point, guys, this is part of why in the business development content that's in the course, we're driving home the idea of bringing out content, even if you think no one's listening, just keep putting it out there. Right? Oh. Because now, whether anybody ever saw it or not, chances are in your first year, probably not. But you know what? That means you get to refresh it all in year 2 and reinvent it and do something different with it and figure out how to kind of reframe it. But the fact that you were out there giving talks, so you had to write your own talks, writing articles, recipes, you had like years worth of content that you can now turn around and repurpose into a book. Not that I'm downplaying how much work that's going to be. It's no doubt a crap ton of work. But I would imagine you wouldn't have gone from, hey, I can help you with intermittent fasting, to writing a book if you didn't have all that other writing experience and content production to begin with. So that was one of the questions I had on here, because I know you're so prolific with it, is how do you find sort of content inspiration? Where does it come from for you? Is that a big quagmire question?
You guys, I am an idea factory. I don't know like where it comes from. I'm not creative in the artistic sense, but I am extremely creative in idea creation sense. So just give me a walk or a shower or a drive, and I'm like, oh, that would be a great idea. Oh, that would be a great idea. And we are lucky as, you know, self-employed individuals or in a new field to have the opportunity to explore all these new things and for nobody to tell us what's right and wrong. And I use the other people in my field as a guide. Like sometimes I don't want any ideas and I'm like, just tell me how to freaking do it and I will do it exactly as you say. But when it comes to, like, for instance, when I was sharing some of my recipes, my husband was like, oh, don't you like want to keep some of the recipes to yourself? And I'm like, any chef who does that, it must be insecure of their own art form, because I can come up with a million ideas. Are you kidding me? Just swap this and swap that. You got a new thing. Like it's the same thing in the work that we do. You can use one piece of content and just take it from a different point of view, or just zero in on that one paragraph's topic and make that into its own blog post. And that's boom, all of a sudden you got a book, because I have a course, I had a podcast, I had, you know, stuff that I've been coaching in these group programs that I was like, holy cow, I need to corral all of this. And I'm just not organizationally minded. And it was just a pain in my butt. I even hired an assistant to try and help me. And it was just like, neither of us could keep up with the ways that my brain works or just the way my business works. Because it's not very routine, my business at all. And so I was like, I need to make a project out of this. I do well with like big projects, even though they scare me and I want to quit like a million times. I just do well with them because it's like, okay, I'm going to fully immerse myself and dedicate myself to this. And that's kind of what the book is becoming. It's like, there's no way I'm going to waste these last 5 years that I've been an intermittent fasting coach and not collect all of that in something that I'm proud of. Like my podcast, I had 90 episodes, but only like 3 were about intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
You know, they were just about all different stuff about health. And so I don't really have them all collected, except in my course, but that's still not whatever. I don't even want to go there. I would love to redo my course. Like, it's just one of those things that you look back on and you're kind of like, oh, I could do that so much better, And so I think the book is perfect because I'm going to self-publish it.
Mhm.
So I don't have like the money and pressure from being, signed, trying to get signed somewhere. But I really want something that my audience can buy from me that's not as big of a commitment. Like, let me tell you, nobody wants a course about their health unless they're trying to become a health coach. Like, nobody wants to take a course. So I had to stop calling it that. I would call it my online program. That helped a lot. But I really was like, I need something that's lower cost, that collects my knowledge so that they don't have to book a coaching call with me, so that they don't have to join my group program or join my course, but they can have, my information. And guess what? People who read that book are still going to want to be my clients, and they're still going to want to call me for information because we're just complex beings.
That's a really great kind of next question, because this comes up a lot too, in terms of, in terms of kind of starting a business and being paid for what you do, what's okay to kind of give away versus what do you charge for? And I've said this till I'm blue in the face. I have my own opinions, but I'd love your
Oh my God. The best thing I ever did was give out a ton of valuable content for free.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean like I'm going to give my course for free. I just mean like somebody asks me questions on social media, I'm coaching them right there in the DMs. And if somebody's asking me, if they can do a single coaching call, I used to say I only do packages, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know what, let me just see how this goes. Let me just experiment. Mm-hmm. And when I was writing a post, I was like, I'm going to literally tell them how to solve that problem. Or when I made my freebie, it wasn't like a checklist for like what breaks a fast. It was like, here is how you implement intermittent fasting into your life in 4 phases. And it was 30 pages. And so some people, that's all they needed, but they were very loyal. They stayed on my list. They came to all my webinars. They were, replying to my emails. Like, that's like gold. If you get people replying to your emails, it's just like somebody actually reading it and listening.
No. Okay, so let's get into, because time goes by so fast on
I know.
So do you mind getting into some brass tacks, a little bit about kind of what kind of systems that you use, if any? I know you were saying I feel like my practice isn't all that organized, but do you have certain platforms that you like using? What do you use to kind of build your program? I know Sarah is asking, where are you self-publishing through? Some like logistical, what are you using in terms of tools and resources, and why?
Yeah, I really, I use Kajabi, and it's expensive for somebody just starting out, but I'm the kind of person who's like, I don't want to start something like half-assed and have to go fix it, because I'm not good at that. Like, iteration is not my thing. I'm not like willing to go back and start over. It's an ADHD thing. It's like, I need novelty. So I wanted to use Kajabi, even though it was really expensive, because I was like, if I'm going to build it, I want it to ultimately be there. And they do email, they're your email service provider, and they do the funnels. So I don't need to integrate a marketing funnel service, other softwares. And they have like ways to like tag and group your subscribers. And they have a website that you can build on there, and your course. And now they have podcasting and coaching and all types of stuff. So yes, it's worth the money, but it's scary when you launch your course and nobody's buying it, and you're paying $130 a month. So I will say that I do love it, but it's not for everyone. And I just needed to corral those things, because the technology, just like everyone else, was like one of my least favorite things. And I didn't like having to go to MailChimp over here, and then my website on WordPress, and then talking to my clients on, the DMs or whatever, dealing with email, all that stuff. So I do love having it all together, but I don't have a lot of systems. I still use PayPal to sign my clients on. I just went to paybell.me or whatever. You can create like a handle, and people can pay you through that. So I can just send them a direct link with the price, and they'll pay like that. Now I linked Calendly with PayPal. I've always used Calendly since the beginning, and I really like it. And now they're right up there with Acuity, because you can integrate forms more easily and all that stuff like Acuity does. But I just upgraded Calendly so that they can ask for a payment on my behalf. And so now it's like someone's booking their intake session after a discovery call. They've confirmed they want to work with me. they book the intake session and it asks them to pay. So that helped, eliminate some of the non-automated things that should have been automated. But I really think systems wise, like I'm so far behind, and it's always been something that I'm disappointed in. But I was going to move over to Practice Better, but it was just like this nagging thing. Like I'm running these groups, like I always have something, and I'm the tech person in my partnership for running the group programs. And that's crazy to me because the tech is not my thing. But like I just happen to have more experience in all that. So I'm creating the funnels and the website and the sales page and all that stuff. And I'm the one doing the webinars and the education. And it's a lot. And so when I finally let myself go from this whole Practice Better thing, I was like, thank God. I just took it off of it was on my calendar for like a year and a half that I need to migrate to Practice Better. And I canceled my Practice Better membership, took it off of my to-do list. And I was like, I feel so much better. Like it is okay if I have this weird piece together business because it doesn't really affect anybody else but me.
Well, it doesn't sound like it's crazy. I mean, Erin talks about how she's got all these little component pieces. She's got a ton of things, and because that at the time, back when we started, there wasn't something like a Kajabi that did a lot of it for you. And so, to your point, like $130 a month can be a lot for a coach starting out. But what great motivation to get your ass out there and start selling something and get some clients through that because you're paying for it. If that helps create a sense of urgency, I don't know if that's necessarily, a bad thing. And, look, I mean,
I will say you do need patience though. This is the number one thing that I wish more of my peers had. It's like, I understand that you probably need to make money. I really understand that, but this is a business. Somebody asked who I'm self-publishing with.
Yep.
That was a tough move for me to make because I knew I didn't want to do it on my own. And I knew that I didn't want the pressure of a publisher. And so I've been following self-publishing school for years. And self-publishing school, Chandler Bolt wrote books that you can buy to learn his method. And they do lots of free webinars that are packed with valuable free stuff. And it's the same concept I was just talking about. Just give, and people will come back and they will pay you. And that's exactly what happened with me. I was like, all right, because I wanted to write a book years ago before the pandemic. And I was like, forget that. It is way too overwhelming for me, way too daunting. But I recently came back and I was like, now is the time. Now feels like the time. I'm ready. But I was like, I'm not going to do this alone. And I finally hopped on a call with one of the salespeople from self-publishing school. And I was like, I know this is going to be a lot of money. Am I ready for this? And he told me it was like $6,000. And I was like, oh, phew. I thought it was going to be like over 10 grand because they do everything for you. Like they're going to help me design the cover, set me up with the editor. They're going to help me get the top seller badge on Amazon. And if I don't, I get all my money back. And they do it for you for life. So if I want to write another book, an ebook, doesn't matter. They'll do all of that for me. And they have coaching calls and I have writers groups I'm a part of. So that was hard. I don't have 6 G's, you guys, to just throw into this. Okay. But I'm investing in my business. I'm investing in this process and I'm trying to be patient. Patience pays off with all that content you're making. You think nobody's reading, nobody's listening, nobody's watching, but it has a cumulative effect over the years. All the work that I've put in, finally, I'm the one people think of when this comes up or this comes up. And I promise you that's exactly what's happening. And it's like, I hear from people now. I found you on your podcast and I'm like, what? I haven't made a podcast since 2019.
Yeah.
I'm like, you heard me on my podcast? Like, I'm just like blown away. But I can't tell you, it will pay off if you have patience. And if you let your urgency to make money get in the way of you, first of all, being yourself, being exploratory in this process, being experimental and willing to fail and start over again. If you're willing to do that, you will get there. I tell my clients the same thing. The only people who don't succeed are the ones who quit.
Right. Absolutely. 100%. It happens all the time. I want to move through some of these questions because we've got a few coming in. This is Julie. When you gave in-person workshops, did you have a slideshow of some sort? Did you build slides?
Yes. Like that? In the very beginning, yeah, I did. I think from the beginning. Well, I think the very first one I did, I brought a bunch of food from the grocery store to like show them labels and like demo. And then I got into it and I was like, oh, I think I'm going to do this workshop thing. And so I learned how to use, I used Keynote on my Mac because I'm a Mac user. So in college, I didn't stay long enough to learn PowerPoint or anything. Like I didn't have this background, but I just decided to be open and I learned. And I think it's really important to use slides if you can.
Yeah. I find it just helps organize my thoughts. Not like I have a script. I kind of, whatever, an image and some bullet points and
well, I will say that one thing that gave me more confidence in public speaking was I was at PaleoFX and I saw this girl giving a presentation. She's a dietitian who has like books out and all kinds of success. She was on stage using her phone for her notes while she was speaking. And I was like, does anybody have a problem with that? I don't think so. It's not like people are walking out of here. They're going to be like, that stupid girl. Like, I can't believe she's using her phone. So from that point forward, I use my phone while I'm presenting. It's not the best for photos and stuff, but you guys, I feel so much more confident. Then I can find my place if I get distracted because somebody might get up and walk away. I got ADD. It's going to totally distract me. And I get passionate. So I might tangent and I want them to get the information they came for. So I use my notes. You got to make it.
Yeah, Mark Kison's the first one to tell you, don't let perfection get in the way of the good. Don't let it stop you from taking the step. Oh my God. Julie, so we got another question. May I ask what your starting price was and how much you charge now, if you're not open to share in a minute?
I'd be making a lot more money if I took the advice that's out there about raising our prices. But I'll tell you this, I have changed my prices so many times and I'm okay with that. Sometimes I change it on the fly. Like I need to make more. And I think this client has money. So I'm going to ask him for, double what I have and just see what happens. And it may make some people feel uncomfortable, but it makes me feel better because I was getting used to saying, okay, basically I moved to Northwest Indiana and it was kind of a rural area. And at first I wanted to coach people in person. And so I was trying to meet people at the co-working center, at the library and local places. And their minimum wage was like $7 an hour at the time in Indiana. Okay. And so these were people who I was getting to know too, and they were sick. And I was like excited. They wanted to do a strategy call. And then I tell them the price, which wasn't a lot. It was something like, I don't know, $425 for the month or whatever for meeting every week. And, they're all like, oh, really can't afford it. If I could, I would, whatever. And so I went through that enough times to say, like, it's not like I need to get that amount of money right now. Like my husband made enough so that I could screw up a little longer. You know what I mean? And so I was like, let me just try and bring it down. Like, what am I willing to do it for that they're still going to have some skin in the game, but that is not up there that high. And as soon as I did that, everybody started saying yes. And it felt so good for me. That's what I needed. Some people might be willing to take that step or just put on their sales jacket and like really go for it. But it's worked out so well for me because my prices are still like between 85 and 125 an hour, you could say. And it depends if they buy a package or not. If they're doing 30-minute sessions, sometimes I'm charging $75 just because even though it's only 30 minutes, it's like interrupting what I'm doing. And there's still like admin stuff I have to do related to that. And so packages are usually around like $380 a month for meeting weekly, or bi-weekly is like anywhere from like $200 to $250 usually. And they're just on auto pay. I use PayPal subscriptions. And so I send them a link to start the subscription. They can pause or cancel at any time. And if it's a package, I have it set to end on a certain date so that I don't have to worry about stopping it. But I have a lot of people who decide to stay with me and meet every 2 weeks for over a year. I have some clients for 2 years that see me twice a month and they're just on a subscription.
Yeah, that comes up sometimes when people, in my role as admissions director, people ask, how does that work? Charging per hour, and I talk about charging per packages. But I have clients too that would eventually just put me on retainer with because paying X amount of dollars a month meant that they could, book a call with me once, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
If you've got some people that are reluctant to purchase a 3-month package, but they're willing to pay $300 or $400 a month, right? Why not do that? Mm-hmm. So a lot of this, I think, is going to come down to kind of what you're comfortable with. To your point, what am I willing to do this for? What do I need to make this worthwhile for me? And the only people that can really answer that is you. So I think where's Allie's question? I had it in here because I think it's a great one. This is so awesome and helpful. Thank you. I'd love to know how you take care of yourself before and after coaching sessions. Is there any specific ritual you do to prepare and align your energy?
No.
No.
There should be. There should be. And I know that. And I've learned all about it. And, it's something I even write in my own journal, like, intention setting for myself and for what I'm working on day to day is such a game changer. But I am just disorganized, like I said. And so I just set timers. Like, I'm proud that I show up to these sessions on time, that I remember what the client was last talking about, and that I am fully engaged with active listening. I'm a completely different person when I am a coach. And that has been a real eye-opening experience for me because like I can't coach my family, for instance. Like I am a completely different person. Even who you're seeing right now is completely different than the person who's in the coaching sessions. And it's amazing how well of a listener I can be because I'm usually the one that's doing all the talking or not raising your hand and talking out of turn. But when I'm in a coaching call, like I'm so invested in them. I really love people and I really want what they want. And so I'm like, I really want them to know I'm 100% focused on them. And I think it works for me. I don't ever regret not prepping for the call. I just regret not leaving myself some notes at the end to remember more easily what I wanted to revisit or bring up next time.
Well, and I think the better you get at active listening, which we address in the primary course, but I know you get in spades in the master coach course, the better you get at active listening, the easier it is to recall this stuff from session to session. When you're too busy taking notes in the moment, you lose it. You miss some of the smaller details. You miss the nuance. Like, wait a minute, did I hear what I thought I heard? Or can, this is what I heard you say. Is that really what you meant? Just never making assumptions, and that active listening is so important. It's the one thing I did not do well in the beginning. I think I was always listening for how I was going to respond. I was listening in order to know how to respond instead of truly listening. And it makes such a big difference. Todd is asking, to serve restaurant customers, you had to be a good listener. Did the skill of asking the right questions in coaching session come difficult at first?
I think the skills that I had in restaurants and bars was just that I'm like customer service minded. But other than that, it really didn't translate into coaching because I was in very fast-paced, high-volume places. So it was just like, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? But when I'm in the coaching calls, like even from the beginning, I think just because I'm a people person, and okay, I've been through therapy, I've hired personal trainers, I've hired ADHD coaches, business coaches. I always have a business coach of some shape or form in my life, and I can't say enough about that. So you definitely want to do that. But because I've had all those past experiences in therapy and things like that, I understood what it was like for the client. And so if you don't have experiences like that, you better sign up and hire somebody because you need to know what that is like. And you need to be serious about receiving that help because these people are investing. A lot of them, it's a very big decision to put that money into you and trust you like that. And they're very vulnerable because they have to talk to you about things that they hate admitting or talking about. And so I was just ready for it. I don't know how else to say, like, I loved one-on-one coaching. I love it a little less now just because I want people to have results faster that I see like in my groups. And I feel like because they're paying more in one-on-one coaching, they should achieve those results faster or whatever. But I think it's just that people who like one-on-one coaching are people who want to get into the messy stuff. They're just ones that want to talk about their emotions and want to take their times and just want to be understood. And the people in the group program want to start an end date and they just, want to bang it out.
Yeah, totally different animal, right? The content and concepts might be the same, but the experience is so different from person to person. So, I mean, I actually kind of started out group coaching more than just because of where I lived in Illinois and what the laws were like, and just the different, like my gym and kind of how I ran things. But so I started out that way, and I don't feel as though it hurt me in any way. I learned a lot from it, but after coaching one-on-one people, it then aided and helped make my group coaching better because I understood kind of what was going on in the inner workings of the brain of some of these people. The more I got to know people one-on-one. So running both kinds of programs over time can be really helpful because they can inform each other. But
totally
starting out, so here's the thing, like starting out, I am a big advocate of kind of focusing on one thing. Do you have an opinion as to starting out?
You know what? You just collaborate, okay? Collaborate with other businesses and other coaches as much as you can, because that is probably what, besides niching down to be an intermittent fasting, those are probably the things that helped me grow my business the most with the least pressure on me. So even though I had been blogging and I had a little bit of a head start compared to other graduates, like meaning I had a social media following, I already had a page and stuff, I still was creating a new business because I wasn't My Longevity Kitchen anymore. I wanted to be Marisa Moon, the health coach. And I wanted to, be known for that. And I really needed somebody else's traffic. Otherwise, you're spending so much time trying to figure out this marketing piece and trying to figure out your niche when that can happen naturally or organically when you team up with other people. And there's going to be some teaming, partnerships that don't work out. There's gonna be some that are not, they're just fruitless. Okay. You feel like you wasted your time, but that's no different than me saying yes to a summit that was like a complete bomb, or like the host was a fumbling fool. Like I had to learn and be open to all these things to find the gems. And then it was all worth it. Same thing with the collaborations with certain coaches or businesses. There were some that I spent so much time on and gave me nothing in return except that lesson. And there were some that would just take off and soar. Like I had this big group program, but I couldn't have done it without this personal trainer who I partnered with. She already had the program. I just made it better.
Yeah.
And now we are an unstoppable team.
That's great advice, because that was going to be what I kind of wanted to end on is to, what do you think health coaches really kind of need to be successful? Is it knowledge, skills, resources, mindset? If you were to kind of, you already mentioned one, which is, the collaborating and kind of making your life easier, niching down with something that really made like a game changer for you. But anything else you want to?
Like the perfectionism piece is so huge among my peers. I can't believe how many are paralyzed by perfectionism. Like I was going to, but I can't until I get this other certification, or until I, have the perfect website, or until I create the perfect program. Like, no, you need to already be coaching people. You need to already be on social media. It doesn't matter if you don't have your logo yet. It doesn't matter if you're still a full-time, teacher. You still can have a page that's about your nutrition interest or your fitness interest or whatever, your disease. Like when I started coming out about ADHD, you guys, that was very scary for me. When I started being open about it, I can't tell you how much more engagement I got. I can't tell you how much more ideas came to me. I can't tell you how much better I felt about myself. Stop pretending to be like this perfect, specimen of a coach or a business, so that you can get out of your own way and start making progress. And if you're patient, it's going to be so much more fun, because it is creative. You're building something out of nothing.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, we talk about the power of authenticity so much. Gosh, people can smell BS a mile away.
I know.
Some people the story you were talking about earlier, some people are better at the BS than others, but I do think when you're not yourself, some people can really pick up on that and just kind of leaning into.
Well, and it's in your way too. Like it's literally in your own way, because you're trying to be something you're not. It's like if my idea for writing my book was for it to look like Jason Fung's book on fasting, or like somebody else's book about the metabolism, I'm screwed. That's not how I work. That's not how I coach. It's not how I think. It's not how I talk. I don't have that education. So how about I just be me? Because clearly some people like that.
Yeah. People
are going to love it. If you decide to go on social media, no makeup, you're lying in bed and every morning you just give your 2 cents about some BS that's happening in the news, you'd be shocked how many people like you just because of that, because they can relate to you. They're like, finally, somebody who like me.
Yeah, no, I love that. Thank you so much. So authenticity, and the last piece, patience.
Yeah, and collaboration for sure.
Yeah. I love it. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us. I've already seen a couple people. Is there going to be a replay? There's always replay. Interestingly, we always have more replay watchers than live watchers. So we end up getting 3 and 4 times the number of views in the after and the replay. And also just people that went back and rewatched things because they want to go back and kind of take some notes or write down things that we said. So thank you so much for sharing your journey. I think there's people listening that, hear a lot about themselves in you, but also I just find everybody's path and how different it is inspiring. So thank you.
Yeah, this is great. I'm glad. I think it was good timing for me too, because I have a lot more self-acceptance at this stage. And, even though I'm not making the big bucks, like I'm making enough, like it's enough to make a living, and I'm doing more of what I enjoy, and I'm building like more self-confidence at my own pace.
Yeah, I love it. So awesome. Thanks again,
Thanks.
Marisa.
All right.
Thanks for joining us, everybody.
Great seeing you all.
Bye.